broke my heart to a million pieces. I don't feel okay. I don't feel well. I feel completely broken. Hello, my name is Fenaretti and this is what I read in August. So, in August I did read 8 books, which is quite impressive for my standards because I don't tend to read more than 1 book per week. Usually July and August are the months that I read most in the year, so I was very nervous about my reading goal this year, and now I'm just 2 books away from it, so I'm just very calm at the moment. Like, I don't care anymore. No, I'm joking. I will continue reading, it's just that now I will be able to read bigger books that I was avoiding for the whole year because I was trying to reach my goal first and then go into the more intimidating books. So this month I read 8 5-star books, which is not that crazy if you consider that my rating system is per genre. So if a book of a fluffy genre is good in its fluffy category, I will put 5 stars. If a classic is good, you'll still get 5 stars as well. So my star system is not the most fair, but it's still my star system because this is my channel, okay? Thank you. In order for this to be interesting enough, I will go from my least favorite to my most favorite. So my least favorite book, book number 8 is Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman. Nick and Charlie is a novella about 2 boys, Nick and Charlie, who are from a graphic novel series that I've been following that has 3 volumes so far, which is the Heartstopper series. And it's just a little story about a specific time period in their lives in which Nick is getting ready for university while Charlie still has a year left in school. This little novella was just a 2-hour audiobook, and I was a bit upset by the miscommunication aspects of it, but I liked the writing, and one of the performers, the ones that was doing Charlie's voice, had the most brilliant British accent ever. I wish we could start a petition for every audiobook ever to be narrated by a posh English person, because it's just the best music to your ears, and I loved that experience. My only problem with this book is that I don't feel this was a story worth telling. I'm glad I read it, but I'm not sure of its worth. I have not read any other Alice Oseman books ever, but I do want to read Radio Silence at some point because it's one of Kat's favorites, and she's been mentioning it so much that I just feel brainwashed at this point, to be honest. So then we have a trilogy called The Folk of Air, which is The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King and The Queen of Nothing. So this trilogy had a bit too much plot for my taste, because when it's a teen romance that is in the same genre as Twilight, I don't enjoy when the romance is not as present or relevant in the plot. There is a love story throughout the series, but I just wish it was more present and had more reading time. The Folk of Air trilogy is about a girl named Jude that is a human, and somebody from the Fae world murders her parents and then kidnaps her and her 2 sisters, one of which is the murderer's actual biological daughter, and he kidnaps them into the Fae Kingdom, and we see the struggle of this young girl named Jude being horrifically bullied by every Fae child ever, and we see her trying to get a place into the society of the fairies. She's a very strong character and I really liked her, but some choices that she made I didn't agree with. The book series overall was alright. For something light and something fun, it was fine. It was well written. It's a story worth telling, but that's most of it. And also, something that I didn't know, a little fun fact for you, Holly Black is also the writer of the Spiderwick Chronicles. Overall, I would suggest this for anyone that looks for a light read, but I don't think it's one of those book series that will stay in people's hearts forever. It just lacked that element that made me truly care about these people to a deeper and more meaningful level. And also, the Cruel Prince isn't even that cruel. He could be more cruel and I could have forgiven him. He wasn't cruel enough, I would argue. But anyway. Then number 4, we have Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. This book was everything that I could have wanted it to be and more. I did feel like I was reading Twilight for the first time in my life. I was feeling like I was 16 all over again. I had the same reading experience that I had with Twilight. It answered so many unanswered questions that we've had from all the book series in general, and also we see a lot of behind the scenes. So because it's from Edward's perspective, we get to see many scenes that were not included in the original books. For example, how he tried to seek justice for the people that tried to assault Bella, or for example his relationship with his family and how the fact that he reads minds is interfering with their privacy, and also learning a lot about his past, or as much as he remembers, which felt like I was watching an old movie of somebody that I love dearly. It felt like I was watching videotapes of my own childhood, and the whole book gave me just the warmest, fuzziest feelings. And although it was like truly very long, I didn't mind it, and I love the type of detail that Stephanie always adds in her stories, because it makes them more real and more authentic, and I just loved the experience of reading it. And honestly, I am as surprised as you are that this wasn't my favorite book of the month. For book number 3 we have Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I'm sorry, I probably mispronounced that completely. Never Let Me Go is one of the first movies I ever watched without subtitles. It was at the period of my life when I was like 14 that I was trying to learn English by watching movies, which is actually the way that I have learned English. I did take English classes, but I never started because I was always a very lazy student. Okay, Never Let Me Go is a mystery novel about a group of kids that are raised in a boarding school, and we vaguely feel like they don't really have parents. It feels like it's more of an orphanage, and they do have carers, and they are brought up in a way that maintains their pureness and their kindness and their artistic abilities. Once they leave their boarding school, they start to take the path that was formed for them, and we discover what their life's purpose is, which is devastating at first, but unfortunately I already knew about it because of the movie, and I feel like it's better if you go into it without knowing. And the way that it hits you hard, because there's nothing sadder than seeing good people go through things that they don't deserve. But unfortunately this is the world we live in, and it's as hard as it is to read about, it's not that far-fetched from reality, because this is not set in reality, this is set in an alternative universe, which doesn't even seem that far from where humanity is at this point in time. I would 100% recommend this book. It was beautifully written, beautifully narrated, and it's really a very heartfelt story that I feel like really teaches a lot about how humans are and how they think and how they feel, and what makes us who we are, and what makes us most of all human. Oh my god, I'm so excited to finally have a prop to show you. For book number 2, my second most favorite book of this month was Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Okay, Frankenstein. I finally finished this book. I started it about a month and a half ago, but because it was the only book that I had to read physically as well, because I wanted to annotate the whole thing, it took me longer to finish because I don't always have that much time to sit down and hold the book. And it was so worth it. This is such an intense journey. This is such an original book about what makes us human and what gives us souls and what gives us a purpose. And I feel like this is also a very great example on how our childhood has an impact in who we become. So this is the story about Dr. Frankenstein, who thinks of himself as something greater than a human and tries to create life out of nothing. And he creates a creature that he abandons, and then we see this creature trying to understand the world around it. It's like you leave an infant at the streets for it to raise itself, and we see how this human, this creature who raised itself in the wilderness, perceives the world around it, and how the impact that external sources have make him who he is and make him take this path of vengeance and cruelty. I firstly became interested. I knew that I wanted to read this classic this year because it's a very small classic, but also I was privileged enough to know about the National Theatre Live program on YouTube, and they published the theatrical plays that National Theatre did back in like 2011, somewhere back then, with Benedict Cumberbatch and Lee Miller. They were phenomenal. They were phenomenal, and actually they are available right now to watch in theaters, so you should definitely seek them out. And I would suggest there's two versions, one that Benedict is the Frankenstein and one that Benedict is a creature, and I watched the one that Benedict is Frankenstein, and I prefer that a lot because I feel the other actor did a great job at being the creature. I feel like he completely encapsulated the essence of what it would be like for somebody to be raised that way. Literally, the person that wrote it was brilliant. They were extremely smart. This book is so well written, and it deserves the title of a classic so much that I feel like everybody should read, actually in a young age as well. I feel like this is one of the first books you should read the moment you get into the adult world and you are exposed to the society and what it is to be human and what it is to be kind and what it is to be evil and to do bad things. I love this book very, very deeply much. And the audiobook was narrated by Dan Stevens, who used to be one of my favorite actors because he was in Downton Abbey and he was so cute. But I would say that it would be better for you to listen to the audiobook while also annotating the book, because this book has lines that you need to underline in every page. Literally every other page you will find things that are worthy of your attention. So I would 100% recommend, if you're looking for a small classic to read that's actually very modern in a sense that it doesn't feel like it's worthy, definitely Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. It was amazing. Okay, now you might be wondering, if Midnight Sun was not #1, what book could possibly top my love for Twilight and their universe? We need to talk about Normal People by Sally Rooney. Normal People by Sally Rooney was one of the most intense and intimate experiences I've ever had while listening to an audiobook. This story really floored me from like the first couple of minutes of listening to the audiobook. I was listening passively. I was like, oh, might as well read this because I really wanted to watch the TV show, and I've heard from Noelle that she didn't like the book and she didn't connect with it, and I was like, well, I just have to read the book because I really want to watch the show. And then I was like, whoa, this is something different. This is not just an audiobook. This is like proper good, which doesn't happen that often. Like, as often as I give 5 stars, it's not often that I actually find a book truly unique or truly worth the 5 stars that I give it. I usually listen to an audiobook while playing Animal Crossing or while doing chores, but with this book, all I wanted to do is lie on my bed, stare at my ceiling, and just accept this story and live through it. And it's a story that brings up so much of past trauma, and it talks about what it means to grow up and how your parents can affect your life and how your family can affect your love life and how two people that are so smart keep misunderstanding each other and keep missing each other. So the plot of Normal People is the relationship of the two main characters. We have Marianne and Connell, and I love books that the whole plot is the relationship. That's my favorite type of stories, the character-driven stories. I do not care about plot. I'm sorry, I've mentioned it before. Oh my god, I hate plot-driven books. I just don't care about plot at all. I don't like reading stories unless there is something to learn from it. Let's just briefly talk about the story, but you don't really need to know anything to get into it. It's about 2 students. One of them, Marianne, the girl, is extremely lonely at school and she doesn't talk to anyone. She's very isolated, and it looks like it's from her own doing because she is very aggressive to everyone and very quick to get into arguments and very sassy, but in a very strong way. Like, she looks very strong. She doesn't care about people's opinion, and she's very rich. And then we have Connell, a guy who's like the popular jock athlete type of guy who secretly loves literature and loves reading, and his mom is the cleaner of Marianne's house. So him and Marianne know each other, but they pretend they don't at school. And then a relationship starts forming in which Connell asks of it to be a secret because he doesn't want his friends to make fun of him for dating the weird girl. And then we see how this relationship evolves and changes throughout the years, because we follow them after high school to their college years and briefly a bit after that, and we see how these 2 people keep finding each other, keep being torn apart, keep finding each other again. And it's a story about true connections and what it means to have a best friend that you love dearly. It's heart-wrenching. It broke my heart to a million pieces. I don't feel okay. I don't feel well. I feel completely broken. A piece of my heart is no longer there, and it's going to be missing forever. It's one of those books that speak to me so personally and in the same level as Call Me By Your Name, which might sound completely irrelevant, but if I was to describe the feeling that this story gave me, I would say that it was very close to Moonlight mixed with Call Me By Your Name. And I know this is a very bold claim, but this is how the story felt. And this is also me talking about the TV show, which was a very faithful adaptation. I absolutely loved it. It's 12 episodes and I watched 6 episodes one night and the other 6 the next night. There's so many love scenes in this book and so many graphic scenes, but they feel like they actually actively enhance and progress the story instead of halting for some graphic scenes. This story really spoke to me, and as I was listening to the last chapter, I could feel what the last line was going to be. You know this feeling when you're reading a book and your eyes glance towards like the next page or the next paragraph to see what's gonna happen? I could feel in my bones what her last lines were gonna be. And I was right, and I was so shocked, but also I felt so justified to love this book because it ended the same way that I end many of my stories. It is the type of ending that I love, and it's the type of ending that really leaves an impact. And if it had any type of different ending, we wouldn't remember it, because I speak to that little sad part of us that never gets healed. I would 110,000% recommend this book. It was truly brilliantly written. I appreciated all the extra elements that gave it depth and made it a masterpiece, but all I cared at the end of the day was the characters, and it delivered in a way that no book delivers. So this was what I read in August. I hope you get to read some of these books because I actually truly loved them. And if you have any recommendations for any book that has the same type of impact that Normal People has, which I would also compare to Lost in Translation, I feel like it has the same type of impact and the same type of impact that Call Me By Your Name has. So if you have any recommendations in that type of book or film, please give them to me, because this is exactly the type of story that I love. And I'm also writing a story that's kind of like that, and I would love to get inspired. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Bye!